Alright, it's time for book club. I'm so excited to start back up. It's funny. Oh, my brain, you guys. It just sometimes needs to break out of the box. And sometimes I pin myself down with too much schedule, and then I break out and want to do nothing. And then I realize, wow, I really need some schedule. Because then I just, you know, I don't get up in the morning. I don't have a reason to get up, so why would I get up? I just sleep in. But then I stopped doing my workouts, and it's just this downhill slope. And so I was like, yep, I think it's going to start back up. Anyways, well, I appreciate you guys being patient with me, not being perfect, because I certainly am not. But I don't give up. And my brain might be a little bit chaotic sometimes, but it's a party. Okay, here's the book. So excited. We're going to do this whole dang book. And not stopping in the middle of this one. We're going to do the whole thing. And I'm so excited about it. So, yeah, we're just going to get started. I'm going to start a 20-minute timer. And we'll just read for about 15 minutes. Actually, I'll set a 15-minute timer. And then we'll read for 15 minutes. And then we will talk for 5. And there's Shannon. Awesome. Good morning, Shannon. Oh, she's not connected yet. Good morning. How are you?
Hello.
So excited to see your beautiful face this morning. Okay, so I'm gonna read for 15 minutes and then we can like discuss for 5. That's what I do. Okay, so there's the book. I'm gonna start with the preface. So it says becoming a real success. As I speak around the country, people often ask me why I read out why I write books. Remember, this is John Maxwell. He's like one of my favorites. I've been asked that question so many times that I want to give you the answer before you begin reading the first chapter of Failing Forward. I have dedicated my life to adding value to people. It's the reason I teach conferences, record lessons on cassette, create training videos, and write books. It's the reason I lead my organization, the Enjoy Company. I want to see people achieve. I want to see each person I meet become a real success. I believe that to succeed, a person needs only 4 things. You can remember them by thinking of the word real. R is for relationships. The greatest skill needed for success is the ability to get along with other people. It impacts every aspect of a person's life. Your relationships make you or they break you. E is for equipping. One of the most significant lessons I've learned is that those closest to you determine the level of your success. If your dreams are great, you achieve them only with a team. A is for attitude. People's attitudes determine how they approach life day to day. Oh, sorry. I'm not used to getting up early anymore. It's going to take me a bit. Your attitude more than your aptitude will determine your altitude. That's a very good one. L is for leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. If you desire to lift the lid on your personal effectiveness, the only way to do it is to increase your leadership skills. If you pick up any one of my books, you could be sure that it seeks to add value in one of these 4 areas. I've written this particular book to change your attitude about failure. Read it, absorb it, and allow it to help you turn your mistakes into stepping stones for success. My desire is that failing forward will add value to your life. Okay, chapter 1. What's the main difference between people who achieve and people who are average? So there's a little quote under it. It says, "We are all failures, at least all the best of us are." J.M. Barrie. What makes achievers excel? Why do some people skyrocket while others plummet? You know what I'm talking about. You can call it luck, blessing, or the Midas touch, call it whatever you want. But the truth is that some people just seem to achieve incredible things in spite of tremendous difficulties. They finish in the top 5% in nationwide sales for their company after losing key accounts. They find ingenious ways to increase profits for their department in the face of budget cuts. They earn a graduate degree while raising two children as a single parent. They discover awesome business opportunities while colleagues don't see any at all. Or they recruit winner after winner into their organization despite what looks like an anemic labor pool. It doesn't matter what kind of work they do. Wherever they are, they just seem to make things happen. Certainly, all people like to think of themselves as above average, but achievers seem to leave average in the dust, so far behind them that ordinary seems a distant memory. What's the root of achievement? What makes the difference? Why do some people achieve so much? Is it family background? Having a good family growing up is something to be grateful for, but it's not a reliable indicator of achievement. High percentages of successful people come from broken homes. It's true. Wealth? No. Some of the greatest achievers come from households of average to below average means. Wealth is no indicator of high achievement, and poverty is no guarantee of low achievement. Opportunity? Opportunity is a peculiar thing. Two people with similar gifts, talents, and resources can look at a situation, and one person will see tremendous opportunity while the other sees nothing. Opportunity is in the eye of the beholder. High morals? I wish that were the key, but it's not. I've known people with high integrity who achieve little, and I've known scoundrels who are high producers, haven't you? The absence of hardship. For every achiever who has avoided tragedy, there's a Helen Keller who overcame extreme disabilities or a Viktor Frankl who survived absolute horrors. So that's not it either. No, none of these things are the key. When it comes right down to it, I know of only one factor that separates those who consistently shine from those who don't. The difference between average people and achieving people is their perception of and response to failure. Nothing else has the same kind of impact on people's ability to achieve and to accomplish whatever their minds and hearts desire. What you never learn in school. Soccer player Kyle Rote Jr. remarked, "There's no doubt in my mind that there are many ways to be a winner, but there's really only one way to be a loser, and that is to fail and not look beyond the failure." How people see failure and deal with it, whether they possess the ability to look beyond it and keep achieving, impacts every aspect of their lives. Yet that ability seems difficult to acquire. Most people don't know where to start looking to get it. Even positive people have a tough time learning how to see failure positively. For example, I'm known to be a very positive person. My book, The Winning Attitude, has been in print for more than 15 years. But I haven't always been good at failing forward. I wasn't properly prepared for it. It's certainly not something they tried to teach me in school. And kids today don't get it there either. In fact, the school environment often reinforces people's worst feelings and expectations about failure. Take a look at some of my previous attitudes toward failure and see if your experience was similar. Number one, I feared failure. An experience I had in college, along with my response to it, is typical of what many students encounter. On the first day of class, when I was a freshman, the professor walked into my history of civilization class and boldly declared, "Half of you in this room will not pass this class." What was my first response? Fear. Up to that time, I had never failed a class, and I did not want to start failing all of a sudden. So the first question I asked myself was, what does the professor want? School became a game that I wanted to win. I recall that I once memorized 83 dates for a test in that class because my teacher believed that if you could cite the dates, you had mastered the material. I got an A on the test, but 3 days later, I had forgotten all the information. I managed to avoid the failure I had feared, but I had not really accomplished anything. Number two, I misunderstood failure. What is failure? As a child, I thought it was a percentage. 69 and lower meant failure. 70 and above, signified success. That thinking didn't help me. Failure isn't a percentage or a test. It's not a single event, it's a process. I was unprepared for failure. Oh, sorry, this is number three. I was unprepared for failure. When I graduated from college with my bachelor's degree, I finished in the top 5% of my class. It didn't mean a thing. I had played the school game successfully and I had absorbed a lot of information, but I wasn't at all prepared for what was ahead of me. I found that out in my first job. As the pastor in a small rural church, I worked very hard that first year. I did everything the people might expect of me and then some. But to be honest, I was as concerned about getting everyone to like me as I was with helping people. In the type of church I led, every year the people voted to decide whether to allow the leader to keep his job. And many of the leaders I knew over the years loved to brag. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't stop yawning. um, okay, sorry, let me find where I was. Love to brag. That's the word I was on, right? Oh, there it is. About the unanimous affirming votes they received from their people. My expectations were high as I prepared to receive my first unanimous vote. Imagine my surprise when the votes came back 31 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstention. I was devastated. After I went home that night, I called my father, who was a veteran pastor, former district um, former district superintendent in the denomination, and college president. Dad, I lamented, I can't believe it. I worked so hard for those people. I've done everything I can. I was at the point of tears. Somebody actually voted against me and wanted me to leave the church. And an abstention is as good as a no. Should I leave and go to another church? To my shock, I heard laughter on the other end of the phone. No, son, stay there, my dad said as he chuckled. That's probably the best vote you'll ever receive. A new course. At that moment, I realized what an unrealistic view I had of success and failure. If anything, my college experience had reinforced the wrong notions I had about failure. And as I've helped leaders to grow and develop through the years, I've seen that most people are in the same boat. In Leadership magazine, J. Wallace Hamilton states the increase of suicides, alcoholics, and even some forms of nervous breakdowns is evidence that many people are training for success when they should be training for failure. Failure is far more common than success. Poverty is more prevalent than wealth, and disappointment more normal than arrival. Training for failure. That is a great concept, and it's the idea that prompted me to write this book. Right now, you are getting the chance to sign up with me for a class you were never offered in school. I want to help you train for failure. I want you to learn how to confidently look the prospect of failure in the eye and move forward anyway. Because in life, the question is not if you will have problems, but how you are going to deal with your problems. Are you going to fail forward or backward? Putting a new face on obstacles. When I think of people who are able to look trouble in the eye and forge ahead, one of the first who comes to mind is Mary Kay Ash. She has built quite an organization. During the last 4 or 5 years, I've had many opportunities to speak to the people in her cosmetics company about leadership. In fact, as I travel around the country doing conferences and seminars, it seems that no matter where I speak, there are always at least a dozen Mary Kay consultants in attendance. I admire Mary Kay. She overcame a lot of obstacles in her career, and she never let failure get the better of her. Mary Kay's first career was in direct sales, and she was quite successful. But she also found that it was difficult for a woman to progress in the corporate world, especially in the 1950s and early 1960s, even after 25 years of success. She says, I had worked my way up to being a member of the board of the company I was with, only to find that even though our sales force was made up entirely of women, governed by an all male board, my opinions were of no value. I constantly heard, Mary Kay, you are thinking like a woman again. I felt rejection in the worst form, so I decided to retire. Her retirement didn't last long. By the time a month passed, she was stir crazy. She was ready to start her own business. If she was going to encounter obstacles, they would be there only because she brought them on herself. She decided on a cosmetics business that would give every woman who worked in it unlimited opportunities. She purchased the formulas to the best beauty products she'd ever found, worked up a marketing plan, and prepared to set up a corporation. Trouble. It didn't take long for her to hit her first obstacle. When she visited her attorney to make legal arrangements for the corporation, he insulted her and predicted her failure. Mary Kay, he said, if you are going to throw away your life savings, why don't you just go directly to the trash can? It will be so much easier than what you are proposing. Her accountant spoke to her in similar terms. Despite their attempts to discourage her, she moved ahead. She sank her $5,000 life savings into her new business, every cent she had. She put her husband in charge of the administrative side of things as she worked feverishly to prepare the products, design the packaging, write the training materials, and recruit consultants. They were making wonderful progress, but then a month before she was to open for business, her husband died of a heart attack right at their kitchen table. Dang, man, she really has to overcome. Most people would never have been able to go on after that. They would have accepted defeat and faded away, but not Mary Kay. She kept going. And on September 13th, 1963, she launched her business. Today, the company has more than 1 billion in annual sales, employs 3,500 people, and empowers 500,000 direct sales consultants in 29 markets worldwide. And this book was written in 2000, so 21 years later. I'm sure it's one. And Mary Kay Ash has received just about every award an entrepreneur could dream of. Despite adverse circumstances, obstacles, and hardships, she failed forward. The impossible question. When I was growing up, one of the questions I used to hear from motivational speakers was this: if the possibility of failure were erased, what would you attempt to achieve? That seemed to me to be an intriguing question. At the time, it prompted me to look ahead to life's possibilities. But then one day, I realized that it was a really bad that that it was really a bad question. Why? Because it takes a person's thinking down the wrong track. There is no achievement without failure. To even imply that it might be possible, to even apply that it might be possible gives people the wrong impression. Um, there's like one more paragraph of this chapter, so I'm just gonna finish it out. So here's a better question. If your perception of and response to failure were changed, what would you attempt to achieve? I don't know what obstacles you're facing in your life right now, but whatever they are doesn't matter. What does matter is that your life can change if you're willing to look at failure differently. You have the potential to overcome any problems, mistakes, or misfortunes. All you have to do is learn to fail forward. If you're ready to do that, turn the page and let's go. And then it has like a little summary. So, your first step to failing forward: realize there's one major difference between average people and achieving people. Look at the way any achiever approaches negative experiences, and you can learn a lot about how to fail forward. Read these two lists and read through these two lists and determine which one describes your approach to failure. And then it has a list of failing forward and failing backwards. So, failing forward is taking responsibility, learning from each mistake, knowing failure is part of as part of progress, maintaining a positive attitude, challenging outdated assumptions, taking new risks, believing something didn't work, persevering. And then failing backwards is blaming others, repeating the same mistakes, expecting never to fail again, expecting to continually fail, accepting tradition blindly, being limited by past mistakes, thinking I am a failure, and quitting. And then it says, think about a recent setback you experienced. How did you respond? So, Shannon, what's a recent experience that you had in failing? It's always fun to talk about, huh?
That'd be a quick. Um, I don't know. I don't tend to dwell on failures. Um, I guess not reaching monthly goals, like Texas wise, you know, that happens more months than not.
It's hard, huh?
Yeah.
So hard. I totally agree. That's definitely a hard one. I think another hard one is like, I I dwell on failure too much, honestly. I'm like, I feel like a failure a lot, and I try to focus on the positive, but my mind just keeps going back. Like, why am I not exercising more? Why am I not um, eating right? Like all of these things going through my mind all the time. But it's like the more we say I'm a failure, like the more we don't want to do the things, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting if we focus on that, we're gonna be failing backward, not forward, you know. So but so if we think about positively, like how I failed forward is this book club because I'm feeling forward because I realized that me having no schedule wasn't helping me or my team. So I'm gonna like get back to something, and that's book club.
Yeah, I've been feeling like that too. The summer schedule, like at first I was just so happy to be able to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think maybe we just needed that short time
Hmm.
of kind of no schedule,
Hmm.
more sleep. But now I was kind of feeling the same way, like, okay, I've got to figure something out and
Yeah,
be more productive.
yeah.
But
It was just like a little vacation. That's good,
yeah,
but you have to have an end to a vacation.
right. Yeah. So
Oh,
I'm glad that you started this book club. I think it will be good.
I needed it. I needed a reason to get up in the morning because I didn't have anything planned. I mean, I had scripture study planned with my family at 9, but that's just too late. So I need to get up earlier.
Yeah.
So after that, it says, no matter how difficult your problems were, the key to overcoming them doesn't lie in changing your circumstances and changing yourself. That in itself is a process, and it begins with a desire to be teachable. If you're willing to do that, then you'll be able to handle failure. From this moment on, make a commitment to do whatever it takes to fail forward. That's it for chapter 1. Oh, failure's fun.
I like that it says to be teachable, and um, and I like how it talked about it's your perception of how you deal with failure.
Mhm.
Um, and it made me think of like whenever my kids were in sport, and if they didn't win, I would see the different ways that kids, other kids on the team would act. And some kids just, I mean, I had even parents tell me, like, oh, he's going to be miserable for the rest of the evening, or he's going to be miserable to deal with for the rest of the evening. Like, because
Yeah.
the kid would be so upset, and they either, would respond with anger or just sadness or pouting,
Mhm.
um, stuff like that. And so with my kids, I thought, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I don't want them dwelling on the fact that their team lost for the rest of the night and make it miserable for them and everybody else around them. And so what I would always ask them is, well, what did you learn from it?
Mhm.
What did you learn from this other team that played better?
Yeah.
Or what did you learn from unfair calls by the referee? Or, what did you learn that you could have done better? And then I would always say, well, did you have fun playing? And so we always focused on um, that they love the sport, whether they win or lost, they love the sport. And then we always focused on, what can we take away from this in a positive way? But it's a lot easier for me anyway. That was a lot easier to teach my kids when it had to deal with sports
Mhm.
than it is to think about like not reaching my own personal goals.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of it as a process, and I've been teaching my kids this with art because I have certain kids who they like, let's say they want to draw a unicorn or something, right? They draw the unicorn, and if it's not perfect the first time they draw it, they freak out. They're like, "Oh, I can't do this." They throw it away. I'm like, "No, like art is a process. Like, have you ever watched an artist? Like, I mean, they do layers and layers and layers and layers and like erasing and going back and painting over and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a one and done thing. And I think a lot of times that's what people want is like this short and I mean it totally applies to our business because it's not like, oh, I'm just gonna run to Emerald, done. You know? It's like you gotta learn, you gotta go backwards, you gotta go forwards, you gotta people are gonna leave, people are gonna come back. It's this whole like painting that you're like
Yeah,
of layers. And
definitely.
it's a process. And it's just a change of mindset of like it's not gonna be perfect the first time you do it. And it wouldn't be pretty. Like you think of artists, like all the layers and all the beauty with all the different colors, like they couldn't do that in just one sitting.
Yeah,
you know, it's interesting to think about. Patience, lots and lots of patience is what it requires.
I like that. It's a process. We have to keep trying.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that helps with failing because artists who sit there and paint for days, they don't think of it as failure when they their brush moves a different way than they thought it would. Sometimes it's like celebrated and like cool, But yeah, art is very interesting. It's a lot of life lessons in art.
Yeah.
It's fun. Well, thanks for hopping on with me, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you.
It's awesome.
Hopefully, I'm gonna get the book checked out from the library in the next couple of days. I don't have it yet. So,
It's fine. I know I just kind of sprung it on everyone, so
yeah.
I'm gonna stop the recording, but I want to ask you something afterwards, so don't go away. Bye, everybody.